Hey, welcome back to another edition of LFG. I was going to do ho, 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 but when's this episode going to air, Leanne?
November 17th, so you're right on.
Okay, so ho, 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 friends. Hopefully everyone's enjoying their holiday season. We are back. I am Michael Hyam and Leanne Caruso, my co-host. We are super excited to bring you this fun one. But before that, Leanne, how was your week?
My week was good. Let's see, what did I do? I
Good.
worked a lot. We're in the thick of planning Let's Grow Dallas and the mastermind retreat in Asheville, which will have already happened by the time this airs. So lots of work to be done there, but very exciting. We've got a good speaker lineup, and so I love seeing that come together. And then yeah, that's about it. Just just work. Recording a few podcasts. We had a couple podcasts come out. I recorded a podcast yesterday with Chris Ramo. He has a new aspiring entrepreneurs podcast. So he invited me on that. That was fun.
Oh, nice. Is Chris Ramo coming to Let's Grow?
Yeah, I called him out on the podcast and he says, yes, he is.
Oh, good. You better make sure to tag him on this LinkedIn post. And said, Michael said, Chris, where are you?
Yeah, he'll be there. He's
Oh,
great.
good. Yes. How was my week? Thanks, Leanne. Yeah, it was good. Yeah.
I just said it.
Hello.
Your week,
Is this thing
Michael.
on, Leanne? Are you awake today?
Great. I'm so tired.
I kid. Yeah. It's all same. Actually, a very productive week. Just lots and lots of work, and it really has just been a lot of work. Everything you said about Let's Grow that we're doing, and then the franchise shows. It is a ton of work. Like I can't tell you how much work goes into putting in our franchise trade shows, but they're coming along. It's all good. We're getting things going. But yeah, I mean, you know what? I mean, we gotta really like, what's up with this work? Like, when does the fun begin?
I'm trying to figure that out.
You know?
I sent a text the other day and said, how do I make money but not have to work this hard?
Oh my gosh, I tell you.
Oh no.
Well, there will be a little fun. So at the time of this airing, I guess I will be at the casino.
Oh, that's right. You're going on vacation.
So maybe yeah, well, kind of a mini vacation. It's my sister's 50th birthday, so she wants to go to Vegas, so we're going to Vegas.
So win lots of money so that we don't have to work this hard.
There you go. I'll put a 50 in the slot machine and I'll do one pull, and let's see if we can come out with some money. Okay, anyways, enough with this nonsense. Let's get to it before we lose our one listener, Karen. Karen, stick around. Today, this is phenomenal. Like, oh my gosh, the content galore, the dynamic, the elaborate Sabina Gault, CEO of Konnect Agency, is on the podcast, and we are so excited to have her on. I know you don't like her as much as I do, but
Introduce you to her. Listen, Sabina is so much fun and she is a firecracker. So she's been doing this for, I think, what'd she say, 20 years, but she talk about unfiltered. She's got it all. She was a great fun interview and very smart.
Yes, we love you, Sabina. Okay, but before we get to Sabina, let's get to what's growing on. Our segment, What's Growing On, is sponsored by Franchise Assembly, a franchise events company bringing resources and education to franchise brands and people. Full couple nuggets that we pull here and there. This was an interesting one that someone sent to our email address, podcast@franchiseassembly.com. I know Leanne doesn't usually like to feature those ones, but I am going to feature it. And it was by who sent this? It was one of the PR agencies. So good on you. And we're gonna talk about this one. It's a nice one. So thanks to our friends at ZBART International Corporation, and No Cap Sports. So Arizona Army National Guardswoman Peggy Steimel, hopefully that's how you pronounce it, Peggy, attended the Army Notre Dame football game at Yankee Stadium in November. The sweepstakes honored service members with nominees like Peggy that celebrated their resilience and sacrifice, and that is amazing. Our service members should definitely always be honored for everything they put into the country. And just to tell you a little bit, Peggy, a 16-year military veteran, faced immense tragedy before deployment. She, unfortunately, this is crazy, lost her brother, her sister-in-law, and her nephews in a plane crash. Despite this, she continued her mission, honoring her family's military legacy. ZBART CEO Thomas Wolfe praised Peggy's story as a testament to the courage of our military families. For more information on ZBART's veteran program, focused franchise opportunities, visit zbart.com. Shout out to ZBART, and we got to tag them on this post too. And glad that Peggy could be honored, and other servicemen and women just like her.
Yeah, ZBART's very vet friend focused, so that's a nice story. All right, Blackstone has agreed to acquire Jersey Mike's subs in a deal valued at approximately $8 billion, including debt. Founded in 1956, Jersey Mike's has expanded to over 3,000 locations in the U.S. since franchising began in 1987. The acquisition reflects Blackstone's continued interest in operated restaurant chains.
Wow.
I'll take 8 billion.
Yeah. I mean, who doesn't know Jersey Mike's, right? Holy, so I wonder how that's going to affect the team. Yeah, we'll see, I guess. That's interesting news. I mean, there's growth, and what's the opposite of growth, Leanne?
Not growth.
Yes, I suppose. Whatever you want to call it, capitulation, maybe. No, that's surrendering. And the reason I ask is because Franchise Group, owner of brands like the Vitamin Shop and Pet Supplies Plus, has filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy. Unfortunately, yeah, the company plans to keep its Pet Supplies Plus and Vitamin Shop and Buddy's Home Furnishing stores open during the procedure, while it plans to liquidate American Freight. We'll see. I mean, to be honest, I'm not going to track anything, but yeah, if they manage to get out or they go under, I guess we'll find out. Unfortunately, yeah, that's not good news.
Bummer.
Yeah, if you want to, let's share more good news. If you want to share your good news of what's going on in your world, in the great world of franchising, then do send us an email to podcast@franchiseassembly.com, and we may or may not share your franchise news. I'll try to, but Leanne might kibosh it.
Oh, All right, so next up is our Franchise Royals, and this segment is sponsored by Hello Mastermind, professional development peer advisory groups for franchise professionals and executives. We currently have executive franchise marketers and franchise development execs, so actually we're opening up 2025, which is very exciting. Hello-mastermind.com. We're going to Nashville and Tampa next year.
Woohoo!
Yeah, the groups are opening up. The groups are open, so visit there, and hopefully we can have some new faces join us, either friend ad folks or marketers. It's such a great group, and you won't be sad that you joined. Anyway.
Love me some Hello Mastermind.
Yeah.
All right, now, enough with the shameless plugs, Leanne. Tell us about who is your franchise royal this week.
My franchise royal is Ingrid Schneider of Stay in Your Lane. Launched a new company called Train in Your Lane. They do so much AI training and all sorts of different digital training for individuals and for companies. And so they decided to segment it and create its own company so that it doesn't kind of dilute what they're doing on the fractional agency side of stay in your lane. So I think that's pretty exciting. And they just did a 2-hour AI workshop at our mastermind in Asheville. And people walked away with a lot of really, really great stuff. And then they're also doing an AI workshop at Let's Grow in February. So very exciting to launch that new company. Obviously, it's doing well. So they created a whole new thing. So congratulations, Ingrid Schneider and team.
That is fantastic. Looking forward to seeing Ingrid and the whole team at their first Let's Grow event.
Yes. Yep.
That's great. I think there was a chance they were going to come to Canada.
They were thinking about it. They ended up at the mastermind.
Oh, okay. Okay. Great. Fantastic.
Who was your royal, Michael?
My royal, and it's not something I saw on LinkedIn. Um, it's just I wanted to thank and I don't think I've had him as a royal before, but I wanted to thank Brian Baisley. Brian has gone out of his way many times to help us. With so many different things. He is such a great human being, and he launched his Brian Baisley Consulting, but more importantly, towards this, he helped us with launching with launching Let's Grow into Canada, and he was our keynote speaker, one of them, and he's on our advisory group, and he's just done so many things to help with us and support us and spread the good word out about Let's Grow Canada, and wants to continue to assist with us for next year. And it's just when someone goes out of their way to really help you, and let you, especially we're coming into Canada. I mean, as a Canadian, we don't really know the market that much like we do in the US. And so when someone comes in and gives you a little bit of lay of the land, it's really appreciative. And so Brian, I just wanted to say thank you very much.
Yeah, Brian was really awesome helping us promote, and big supporter. All right, before we head into our show and tell segment, please take a moment to learn about our podcast sponsor, Orchitect. Managing multiple franchise locations? Meet Maestro by Orchitect, your ultimate business intelligence solution. Gain a centralized view of your entire network, leverage predictive analytics, and make data-driven decisions to boost productivity and profitability. Seamlessly integrate with QuickBooks and automate tasks like royalty payments. Trusted by successful franchises, Maestro transforms operations across retail, healthcare, education, and sports. Visit orchitect.com and take your franchise to the next level.
All right. Well, it is time for our show and tell segment. And as always, this segment is meant for our guests to shine, to drop some amazing franchise knowledge around their industry, best practices, ideas, thought leadership, all that great stuff. Today, we have, as mentioned earlier, Sabina. Sabina, how you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you, Michael? Good to see you.
Good to see you too, Sabina. Oh, sorry, I'm infringing on Leanne's part here, where she was going to say that you're the CEO and founder of Konnect Agency. Leanne, go ahead.
It's okay. You can just speak for all of us.
Right.
We'll all just sit here and watch you.
You don't even need us. Hey, listen, I've known Sabina for several years now. We worked together on a contract, and her team was so good. We've stayed in touch, and so I love Konnect Agency, and I love Sabina, and so I'm super excited to have you on the show, Sabina.
I'm very excited to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
Good. So why don't you tell us your story and how you got into franchising and what you do for other brands in franchising?
Yeah.
Agency.
So fairly I'm not necessarily something that we want to, put on the front page of a publication. It's not very exciting. Horrible employee that got fired from 2 jobs in a row, and leaving and departing my place of no longer employment. Get a call from my client who says, "Hey, so what are you gonna do?" And I'm like, "I don't know. Like, I just got fired. I don't know what I'm gonna do." And they're like, "Well, you should start your own agency." And I was like, "That's a terrible idea. That is the worst idea I've ever heard. Like, absolutely not." And fast forward to 6 months later, I had an agency and a roster of clients. So I still think it's a terrible idea to this day. But here we are, right? 20 years later. I've been doing this for 20 years as a sole proprietor and in the franchise industry. My first client in the franchise space was Capriotti Sandwich Shop. We started with them when they had about 35 locations. They had just started developing a little bit more into the franchise space and into the country, and leaving their kind of normal areas of Delaware and Vegas. So that was a very first client. Shortly thereafter signed Sky Zone. And we worked with Sky Zone up until last year. So it has been a very, very long relationship and tenure of growing those parks and growing that business. And they're just a couple of the examples. But 20 years of doing franchise, 20 years of being in the industry and really, truly loving the space and being, as a sole proprietor, somebody that understands and knows where individuals come from, where you started your business, where you want to make something for your family and to really be part of a system that understands and wants to work with you. And really ultimately starting from a place for us, from a specialty perspective, starting from a place of public relations. So traditional public relations, earned media, getting people to talk about what motivates them, whether it's at a regional level, at a national level, at a market growth level, or from a crisis perspective, right? Those unfortunately exist and they are there, and we need the right specialty to kind of assess to that. And then as the world progressed in the last 10 years, I'm sure none of us here, we're in a podcast, guys. These didn't exist 7 years ago, 10 years ago, they didn't exist. We're all on TikTok, which didn't exist a decade ago. And my daughter who's 14 and in the thick of her TikTok age, and Sabrina Carpenter and all things, she's like, "Ugh, how did you live like this?" And I'm like, I know. What did we do with our lives when we didn't have an influencer tell us what to wear? So those things have changed the way PR looks and feels. So from a need to add layers to that PR campaign, yes, we think socially, and yes, we do influencers, and yes, we work through, some paid, because you have to think, okay, this is not going to work as an earned opportunity. So how are you going to do it on paid? So full service agency from that perspective, but always thinking from a mentality of what is the story that we're trying to tell here, and how are we telling that story in a meaningful way?
That's great. So you guys are based primarily in California, but I know you have people across the country, right?
Yeah, so we have 5 offices. HQ is in California. That's mainly because that's where I'm located, and that's where our president, Amanda Bielek, is located. But our New York office is really strong. Our Chicago office is really strong. We have an office in Denver that's doing incredible, an office in Oklahoma City. And we have about 18 states that we have team members in. Obviously, post-COVID, you really have kind of a wide, disparate areas of representation.
Right. And how many people do you have on your
A
team?
little over 60 people at Konnect.
I think you guys are like the hidden gem in franchise PR that people don't know. You don't have the same name as some of the big guys who are always out
Yeah.
there, but I always like to refer you guys because you're such a talented group of people. So kudos to you for growing your business in that way.
Thank you. Yeah, especially when you don't want to grow it.
I keep being successful, darn it.
Yeah, trying. You know, the last couple of years definitely were a hit on the industry, I think, as a whole. So I think everybody's is trying to figure out what works and what doesn't, and how PR is going to look truthfully in the next 5 years, just
Right.
from a standpoint of technology being so advanced and the industry really spearheading so many concepts that are a blend of owned, paid, and earned.
Right. Yeah, PR has evolved so much over the course of time and it just keeps changing. So obviously you have to stay ahead of it in order to even be relevant.
Yeah.
So let's talk about building a brand, because you've obviously been with a lot of franchisors. So I know that a lot of them struggle with balancing the brand consistency across a lot of multiple locations. So what do you give to franchisors to ensure that their brand remains strong and unified across all of the locations?
Yeah. I think it's an interesting concept because when you look at it, you think, what are some of the things that I, as the franchisor, have to own aside from my logo, my look and feel, the way people talk about the brand and what the product is, right? Like you cannot have a franchisee that all of a sudden, starts selling out, sandwiches in a Sky Zone. It's just you got to be able to keep consistency across the board. But when it comes to how does the brand actually sound? What is the brand that they're putting forward, and how do we all work together? I think a communication strategy that is holistic and that is made to resound in any market, no matter where your franchisees are. We have international concepts that we work with that have, the Middle East as much as they have Australia, as much as they have Europe. Obviously, those are wildly different consumer demographics that are speaking a different language, that are talking differently about the brand, they're really imagining the brand in a different way. So how do you have a communications plan that resonates across all of those individuals and all of those markets? How do you talk about the brand in a way that is creating an emotional connection, right? And we look at brands that have succeeded in doing that, right? And whether they're franchised or not. So for example, let's look at Sweet Green as an example, right? Not a franchise concept, all company-owned stores, but they have an emotional connection with their people. Right now, they're going through a big brouhaha with an agency that has sold them a bunch of ideas, and then they went and did them themselves, and they're under fire for that. But what does that emotional connection translate to? It translates to healthy. It translates to really good for you. It translates to something that I'm massively passionate about, right? That I would like, get an app, get into the app, order my stuff, and then go and pick it up. Why do I do all of those steps? I do them because I have built an emotional connection with this brand, and it makes me feel like I'm supporting a brand that makes me healthier, that makes me feel better, that is something that I'm super excited about, right? So that right there has created the brand itself, no matter where it is, internationally or otherwise, has created this opportunity for the consumer to really build trust and to really build a moment. And that came from the communication. That came from their app and how responsive they are. That came from their social posts. That came from their tongue-in-cheek comments. That came from their campaigns. But that also came from the reliability that they had in their product and their produce, and in the store operators that are operating stores and the GMs that are operating the markets. So yes, you have the sort of clear line of what do you have to do as a franchisor from a look and feel perspective that your franchisees have to keep, but also from how do you communicate what the ingredients are and what the secret sauce is, and how do you build that emotion at a very base level with every single one of your stores. And that comes from a communication plan that is structured across the board. And when you see brands that have that across the board, where you walk into a store and all of a sudden that store is talking about exactly what the corporate locations are talking about. When you see the social media really translate from A to B and being like, oh, here's what corporate locations are talking about, here's what the franchise locations are talking about. And there is a very, very, very clear tangential relationship between these two. That's when you start seeing that wheel start moving. For example, Noodles is a great example. We have a lot of corporate locations. We also have a lot of non-corporate locations and franchise locations. So we have National Noodle Day across all the Noodles & Co. stores. And it's not just done in one part of the country, it's done across the board. So everyone celebrates the same, everyone talks the same, everyone has the same exact POS system, and every call out to the POS, every single one of us has the same social and in-store prompts. You know, we did a partnership with Truff Hot Sauce 2 years ago, and all the stores carried Truff Hot Sauce. All the stores had the partnership in front and center. All the stores had POS prompts for the Truff Hot Sauce add-on. It sold out in legitimately the first day and a half. So it was so successful. We had to redo it twice more to keep the partnership going for a couple of weeks because it was so successful. But it's because everyone did it. Everyone partook in the comms plan. Yeah, it was, you know, fun and gimmicky, but it was exactly what the brand needed to kind of resonate with the Gen Z consumer.
Amazing. And I can imagine that that's sounds like a really super difficult task to complete, and you know, building that culture and getting it you know, across from corporate to franchisees. It does not sound easy at all.
Yeah, it's about buy-in, right? It's if you can create minimal places and time where you can create that buy-in immediately. You know, we worked on the Goddard School for a million years, and that was a great example where we did stuff across the system that resonated across the system. We all did something for Earth Day, and that was a comm strategy. Ultimately, it wasn't a actual, you know, in school strategy. Yes, it got executed in school, but ultimately it was a comm strategy. We stood by Earth Day. We did projects for Earth Day, you know, cute little kids going on little, you know, TVs, you know, both regional and national, and going on the TV and doing their little projects. I mean, how cute is that? Right? And that instills an emotional connection in the parent at home who goes, oh my God, my school doesn't do this. I want my school to do little cute projects that go on TV. Why is my school not doing this? I'm going to go to this school, because that's an emotional connection immediately, that quick. And that's a comm strategy.
Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, so let's pivot here for a second. So going from brand building now to franchise growth. When it comes to growing a franchise system, what role does PR play, and how can a franchisor leverage public relations to attract new franchisees? It's a little bit different.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, growing your customer demographic wildly different from growing your franchisee, right? We're talking a much different buy-in, right? That while a customer may pay, you know, $5, $7, $10 for a sandwich to buy into your store, and can build that emotional connection with your brand and want to come to, you know, Jimmy John's, or insert name of franchise here, Capriotti's, insert name of franchise here. Totally different for a franchisee, right? We're talking, you know, $350,000 startup fee all the way up to, you know, in the millions, depending on the kind of franchise concept that you're looking to invest in. So it's a much different buy-in. It's a much higher barrier of entry. And it's a much more, you're not going out to everyone, right? You're going to the 10% of the population that wants to be a business owner, the 10% of the population that is willing to start a franchise, and the 10% of the population that is interested in running their own show. And then out of that, you're looking at the whatever 1% that is looking to go into your area of expertise for your franchise. So PR ultimately comes in to showcase why this is a better concept than others. So you do that in multiple ways. Number one is from a franchisor level, you want to talk about the unique selling proposition, no different than you would talk on the consumer side, right? So what is the selling proposition that you have for this franchisee? Why are you better? Why are you offering a better solution? You know, why is this something that somebody should be interested in? Why is this a better investment? How long do you have franchisees, right? Do you have franchisees that have been with you for 20, 30 years? Or is this a newer concept? What's the sex appeal here that you want somebody to buy into? And that can be done, you know, whether it's through national media. Obviously, those national articles are a huge opportunity for the franchisor to shine. But then they're also done through things like Forbes Business Council and Entrepreneur Leadership Network, where your head, your CEO, your franchise development lead, they're coming out and talking about the brand and talking about why a brand is successful. How do you find success in franchising? So they're almost like a third party, but they are actually very much talking about the success of the brand as a franchise. They're talking about why this is a successful concept. Why would somebody invest in this concept? Because it is successful. Then on a more regional level, you look at your franchisees as your spokespersons, and PR uses those storytelling moments. Somebody that came from a different country and has found success with a franchise system, and now they have 10 plus locations. A single mother that has this, idea one night that I'm gonna do this. I have this money left from my divorce, from my husband, from my this, but I'm a single mom now. I got to think about what I'm gonna do for my children and how I'm gonna provide. I'm gonna invest it in this business, and they invested in this business, and they have this incredible success story of now running 5 daycares for Lightbridge Academy. Like, that's the kind of stuff that really makes the client shine and makes that person, that franchisee, feel really proud of the achievement that they've done. So it creates an amazing internal rah moment through PR, but it also creates an external point of validation. So if I'm looking to buy a franchise and I see this amazing mom, I'm like, oh my God, I could do this, right? Like, if she's doing this, I can do this. She's been successful with this concept. I'm going to go look at this concept. And having been in this, industry for a while, we always look at where's the data, and we talk to brokers oftentimes, and we say, what are people that come to you? What are they looking for? Because as PR professionals, yeah, we can put a story in the Wall Street Journal, cool, and then what? Right? Or yes, we do a regional story and we do a TV segment, and then what? Like, that's not all of it. A communications and a PR strategy for franchise development isn't only getting those great, beautiful stories. That is a piece of the puzzle, but that's not the entire puzzle. So when we look at what the data says, what are people looking for? Is somebody that is, let's say you're doing, let's say we're working with Altitude, for example, is somebody that's looking to invest, a couple $1 million into a trampoline park. Are they looking to do so? Or were they looking at a restaurant before and they were considering a restaurant? Absolutely not. Data shows very clearly that is not who you're targeting. You're not targeting the guy that's looking at restaurants. That guy is set and knows exactly what he wants to do, and chances are he already has other restaurants.
Yeah.
So knowing that data then allows you to position those stories in the better publications with the better people forward. So then you're not beating your head against the wall in a comms strategy, in a communications and PR and earned media strategy with tactics that aren't working. So we always try to look at what's actually selling and who are you selling to and who's that consumer that's buying your product. And then you talk to them, and you talk to them through that earned media, whether it's through your existing franchisees to a larger story. So now that you know that data, instead of talking about the success of your franchise, you talk about the success of your franchise, especially when you come from the entertainment industry. So that suddenly changes the entire perspective of somebody reading that story.
All right, so all of that's really good information. So what about crisis communications? So I know that if you don't have a crisis communications plan in place, it's too late when a crisis happens. And so I don't know that emerging brands or brands really understand that until they understand it. So what is your advice to franchisors on developing a crisis communications plan? Both for franchisees and for the franchisor, because
everyone has to have it. Unfortunately, it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. We know one too many concepts that have legitimately had to go out of business because they were so early in their franchise stage, and they had a big crisis and they couldn't overcome it. And that happens on both the consumer side and on the franchise development side, right? Because you can have, a agreement with a franchisee that goes south, and that really gets wind to the entire community. And when that community is small and you only have 10, 15 franchisees, everyone hears about it. And when the onus of communication is usually on the franchisor, and you don't communicate quickly, swiftly, and clearly, and with a point of view, then you can let the chatter make their own decisions as to what the communication should have been. So again, whether it's public facing, as in you have a salmonella outbreak, or you have, a raw meat incident, or you have a lot of food, obviously has a lot of crises across the board, just because, food and the FDA and our friends at the FDA have all of these ingredients that, you have to keep refrigerated, shocker. And when you don't refrigerate meat, things kind of go bad. And things happen to clients and customers. Wow, novel concept, but here we are. So then, employees using their hands with no, gloves, and that's on camera and on TikTok now. So bad things happen with food. But look at early childhood education. Early childhood education has as many crises, if not more, than food, and they're not handling any food. But they're handling people's children, little tiny children, and things happen. Fingers break, toes get stepped on. Things happen in a school more than you would know. So again, having those both consumer, right? Because those are all very consumer forward, but also franchise relations forward, right? Because if your franchisee isn't able to handle that crisis immediately when the little toe got stepped on, or when the little finger got broken and the child was in the emergency room, or, things that happen, then it behooves the franchisor to have a strategy in place for both the consumer side and the franchise development side, and then to disseminate the consumer side to the franchisees and say, hey guys, this is what can happen and how, and here's how we mitigate it. So no matter what side and goggles you look at it with, you really have to have the plan in place. And usually a plan at the baseline has to have who's in charge. You'd be shocked how many times people have no idea who's in charge. We get calls all the time from a franchisee who called the franchisee relations person, who then was like, I don't know what to do here. Let me call so-and-so, and called somebody else in franchise. Somebody else in franchise, like, I don't know, I think we need to talk to the CEO on this, but the CEO has gone on vacation for a week. So the matter sits for a week and nobody does anything about it. So by the time it hits the news, which it did, CEO's on vacation, and is like, what is happening? So we get the call, hey guys, this happened literally 4 days ago and nobody knew about it because everybody's sitting on it. So a chain of command is literally the most basic thing you have to have in place. Who do you call and who can actually make something happen about it? Once you figure that out, the person that makes something happen, you have to have some situational statements in place. So every franchisor should have, here's the worst case scenarios that could happen for our business, right? We did pest control for a long time, and you'd think that what could possibly happen in pest control? Not a whole lot, right? Like, you're trying to kill rats, you put out poison, rats get killed, happy days for everybody. The customer no longer has rats, the franchisee got his money, everybody's happy. Well, unfortunately, a lot actually can happen. Rat traps get broken, they get into polluting the soil, and people eat vegetables out of that soil, and things can happen. Dogs break into said rat traps and eat said rat poison. Lots of things can happen. So as you can see, even in the most benign sort of situations where you don't expect anything can happen wrong, like mosquito control or pest control or anything like that, there are a lot of things that can go sideways and that can go wrong. So with that, having those situational, what's the worst case scenarios that can happen in my business in place, and then having kind of okay, if this does happen, if somebody calls and their pet passed away because they ate the rat poison, here's what we do. This person calls the customer back immediately within this many hours. Then this is what we say to the customer, and here's the statement that's been approved, and here's what we say to the customer. Then this is what we tell to the franchisee to do to call the customer and how to engage with that customer and what to offer that customer. Then this is what we communicate system-wide so everybody else knows of these instances. So you have to have these ready to go. So if things go south, you are prepared. And then you have to use and analyze every single one of these opportunities. I call them opportunities, even though they're crises. Use them for learning and development. Do you do a quarterly with your franchisees and talk about potential crises and things that may go sideways? Do you talk to your franchisees on how to handle customer complaints? Do you talk to your franchisees about how to constantly remember to refresh with their new employees? We had cases where franchisees were trained, everybody was trained, front desk person wasn't trained. Massage concept, guess what happens? Complaint, front desk person was like, I don't know what to do with this. I'm just gonna put it here for somebody to review. Doesn't get reviewed, it gets blown out of the water. So constant reminders of how fast do you communicate and who in that chain needs to communicate and who can you not forget?
That is amazing. This is great information. Franchisors, I hope you're listening up. We've paid a lot of money to have Sabina here. I kid. Wow, that was great and so informative. I could go back on so many things that you talked about here. But yeah, no, I mean, this is great because everyone should have some kind of a semblance of a crisis plan. And back to your one point about how every Zor should have one, whether it's restaurant or childcare or whatever, 100%, because I'll tell you, if you broke my kid's toe versus if I found a little ant in my salad, you know, all hell is going down. I'm going to burn this place down.
It's serious. And people get upset, and rightfully so, right? Rightfully so. Like, where were you? Why is my kid coming home with a broken toe? Why did my kid get left on the bus for 2 hours and nobody noticed?
So true.
Oh my
It's so
gosh.
true. No, that's great. So we talked a little bit about it, a tiny bit, a few minutes earlier, about the evolving landscape and how the PR industry has changed, I guess, over the last decade. What would you say, or what is your advice for franchisors to be able to adapt to, you know, the changes and the shifts, whether it's media or consumer behavior?
Yeah, I think the biggest change that has happened in the past decade is because of the proliferation of content and where content is available, right? We all have different places to get our content. You know, my husband's very old school, and he legitimately still goes to the website for the news outlet and reads the news. I have Apple News tuned to my expectations, and I only receive the prompts for what I read. So that way, if it's something I'm interested in, it will pop up in my Apple News and I'll immediately be able to see it, right? I don't sit there scrolling through 1,000 articles that I don't want to read about whatever nonsense is happening in the media today. But knowing that now people get their information from TikTok, people get their information from YouTube Shorts, people get their information from a million sources, Instagram, right? I mean, people get their information from so many places. And knowing that information comes in so many different ways, and that you can, as a consumer, block some of the information that is coming your way, then you really, as a brand, you really have to adapt to that and be in more places than one. That's the biggest change. We used to be so unilaterally developed, right? You had an ad team that did advertising, you had a PR agency that did PR. And then as with the advent of social in the last 15 years, you had somebody kind of handle social media. And those almost lived in their own silo. Each of those areas, right? The advertising team would be like, yeah, we're advertising in this publication. It's for our friend Dev. It makes sense. But at no point in time were you informing the PR team of that. This just didn't necessarily cross anybody's mind. So holistically, everybody was doing what they're supposed to do, but they were doing it in their own way and in their own silo. And now the content that we're putting out, whether it's paid, owned, or earned, has to communicate with each other. So if you have a social post out about, a national celebration, your ads should track to that. So if you have advertising that entire month and you're celebrating something and your ad is about buy with us and it's not about buy with us because you get to celebrate this amazing month with us, then you're missing a way of the consumer relationship and of the consumer relating to what you're putting out in place A versus place B. If your media and earned media aren't talking, so your paid media and earned media aren't talking, we were on a call this morning with a client and they need a specific strategy for a state. And they were like, in this state, we really need to amp up the PR. And we're like, great. So we're recommending 10 different outlets in that state to actually go after and have a deeper, more meaningful conversations with, some through e-newsletters, some through regular traditional.com. And the client's like, oh yeah, we're already advertising in these like 4. And I was like, guys, what's happening here? Is everybody asleep at the wheel? Like, hello, can you please let us know about this so then we can leverage that? They're like, oh yeah, you're right. That would have been good to tell you, wouldn't it? I'm like, yeah, it would have. I wouldn't have sat there and gotten upgrades for 45 minutes that I didn't have time to get. That would have been much better, right? So but having those mediums communicate with each other also starts creating a sense of repetition with your desired target demographic. So if you're trying to get more franchisees, right, from a fran dev perspective, and you're using PR as a tactic and you're using media as a tactic, those communicating and talking with each other and the content saying the same message over and over and over. We are the best because we are the best because we have this amazing franchisee. We are the best because we provide the best services. We are the best because we have the most incredible investment opportunities. We are the best because we're developing in Texas. We are the best because suddenly that guy who's looking to buy into your franchise goes, oh my God, these goddamn people, I hear their name everywhere. Everywhere I look, they're there. They're sponsoring a conference. They're talking at a conference. They're at Let's Grow. Actually, my client that I was on with this morning is speaking at your conference coming up in Dallas.
Who is that?
Lightbridge.
Oh, yes.
So yes, but that's the kind of stuff that they see and they go, oh, okay. So wait, I'm reading something about Lightbridge in this area. I am then seeing them speak at this conference. Then I go on, Forbes and I see Gigi doing Forbes, Forbes Council. Then I go into their, LinkedIn and I see a strategy that is talking about the same thing that she talked about in Forbes Council and the same topic that she talked about the conference. So suddenly there's a message that gets populated into a potential franchisee's head that goes, well, these people must be doing something right. They're not just bozo. They're not shooting from the hip, right and left, trying to figure out what the heck they're doing. So with the consumer, it's the same. If your CEO comes out and talks about the importance of education in young children, how you're bridging the gap for further academic success as they grow out of the early childhood education stage and going into further down the road, then that's what the parent reads in a Forbes. A parent like me who's a professional who reads a Forbes, then they go, oh, okay, that's cool. So that consumer is starting to see the thread. Then they go to your Instagram and they see a post about, increasing ways to educate our children, especially after the 4 years that we had as a pandemic. How do you bring those years back and thread the needle through some of the stuff that they've lost? How do you create an emotional connection with that consumer? That's how you have one message that is actually populated across multiple mediums, and you have to be everywhere. There is no such thing as, well, I can only do this and I'm going to do that. No, you can't. Because if you're not speaking at Leanne's conference, and if you're not, doing something in media on an earned perspective, and you're not putting out an ad, then that customer really, if they don't listen to one thing, then you've lost that customer.
Right. So, so how do you juggle local versus national PR? Does a franchisor need to balance it? Is it preferred to do national? I know a lot of franchisees won't invest in local unless it's maybe a grand opening. What are your thoughts there?
Yeah, that's a very good point, Leanne, and you know it. It is a matter of investment, right? If you're doing national, it's a, think of it as an umbrella, and you're holding this umbrella up, and you know, water drops get on it and then get right off of it. And if you don't use cups at the bottom of the umbrella, which is your regional and more hyper local awareness, to catch the raindrops that fall off of the umbrella, you have to have so much rain for that umbrella to get really wet. And that's what national and regional are. You have to have both a strategy at a national level and a regional level. So think of us as national consumers, right? Like, as a national consumer, I don't really hear a ton about what happens in Florida, right? I mean, Florida is always in the news. That's not a good example. Actually, everybody hears what happens in Florida, girlfriend. No. Maybe let's take Poughkeepsie as a market, okay? What happens in Poughkeepsie? I think about Poughkeepsie. And quite frankly, Poughkeepsie doesn't quite get into the national media. So you don't really hear a lot about Poughkeepsie. But I hear a lot about what happens in LA, right? So as a national consumer, I filter the news to things that I'm interested in. So let's say that I'm interested in, you know, in food, and I like to eat at restaurants, and I constantly follow what happens in the restaurant world. So at a national level, I hear what Panera does. I hear what, you know, a pizza chain does. I may hear that Domino's has changed their dough. Maybe I care, maybe I don't, but I hear about it, right? But I do live in the city of LA. So I do follow the city of LA much more intricately than I follow what happens anywhere else in the country, and quite frankly, what happens at a national level. So even if I'm not interested particularly in what my friends at LADWP, which is, you know, our Department of Water and Power over here, are doing, I don't read about that nationally. I don't read about power and cost per kilowatt. That is the least of my interests. However, when it comes to LA, and I hear that they increased what they're doing, you know, and the cost per kilowatt, I'm like, wait a minute, what's happening here? I need to read about that. That's exactly how a franchise brand should think about it. A local regional market will be more interested in more topics than just what they're interested at a national level, because it's their market. They want to know. They may not even have, for example, like, take cinemas, for example. They may not even go to the cinema. They may have not been in a movie theater in the last 5 years. It doesn't matter. If it's on the front page of their regional paper and they're looking at it and they're like, oh, you know, what movie theater is underwater because something went wrong and the pipe burst. They're like, oh my God, I remember I would go to that theater. It doesn't matter that that's not something that they would listen to at a national level. Regionally, they're all about it. And then they go to the next meeting they had and they go, oh my God, did you hear about that theater? Did you hear what happened there? That's the first thing they say. So that's how you should think about your media strategy, is what do I tell at a regional level can be so much more wider because that market will listen to it, versus at a national level, you really got to be honed in. And you can't go off of God's green earth and off the reservation and talk about God knows what. You got to be super honed in into your message at a national level, because only the people that care about that message will hear it.
Right. Yeah, I think franchisors have big dreams to be on the national level, but really they need to focus probably, especially more emerging brands, more on the regional. Yeah.
Yes. And regional does two things. One, it gets you more franchisees because you're going to find other people interested in having a business in that market. And by market, I mean, look at the LA market, right? It's massive, right? Massive. So that's a market. But it also does the second thing, which is it helps your current franchisees with their business. If you're
Right.
constantly in the news at a regional level and you're doing something interesting, consumers who are the buyers of your business for the franchisee, whether they are, you know, parents looking to put their kids in school or somebody looking to buy a sandwich for lunch. By the way, I had Ike's for the other day for the first time. Hello, regional marketing. I moved to a building that now has Ike's. So I Googled, I was like, do I really want to try this? I don't know. And something about this fancy bread that they have. And I was like, oh, well, maybe I should try it. And I tried, and it was delicious. It was great. I ate the whole thing. Must have been like 8 million calories. I didn't eat 3 days afterwards, but it was delicious. Not something you want to have every other day, but delish. So regional marketing, their bread is really that good.
Right.
No, that is good. And yeah, so not just PR. It's funny when I hear about you know, a new emerging brand, and they're like, yeah, you know, we have 4 locations. One's in New York, one's in Oklahoma City, and one's in Seattle. And you're like, oh my gosh.
That's hard. That's
Yeah,
hard. That's
so
hard.
hard. Crazy, but lots to learn. So one of the things that I'm glad you brought up, for those of you that are listening on Spotify, you can't see my T-shirt here, but I am wearing our Let's Grow T-shirt that we handed out here in Toronto at our conference a little while back. One of the things that we also like to focus, in addition to education, which this has been great, both educational, informative, and the trends. So one of the things we like to focus on are the trends, and you know, because it's obviously very important to stay on top of those trends. What are you currently seeing in franchise PR, and how can franchisors stay ahead of the curve to stay relevant, I guess?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, look, there's again, going back to my point earlier, you really have to have data in order to think about this, right? We get people all the time, they're like, oh my God, yeah, should we be on it? Be real. Should we be on TikTok? What should we do? What are we gonna do with our lives? I'm like, well, look at your data, man. Like, are your people on TikTok? Because if your people are not on TikTok, then what are you doing? Why are you advertising on YouTube Shorts? You have no kids. Like, you don't, your people don't have young kids. What are you talking about? You're an elderly care, okay? You're the opposite of young kids, okay? So no, YouTube Shorts, not the best place for you, okay? Mortuaries, not on YouTube Shorts. We probably should not be there, okay? My 11-year-old is not thinking about where he's gonna die, okay? So what does the data say? That is what we need to look at. So when you think about data and when you look at data, right, you guys do this a lot, right? You put conferences together, you look at data, what do people want to hear, what do people want to speak of? It's no different than trends, right? So trends are only trends as they apply to you and your consumers. And trends are only trends as they are applicable to what you are doing as a franchise. So if you're not in that, like for example, the trend right now, very much so, is and it's gonna continue, is having something bigger than you. It's a mission, a passion, something to give back to. And it's not just charity, it's not No Kid Hungry, it's not, that is, you know, that's table stakes these days. You shouldn't put No Kid Hungry on the front page of your website. Congratulations, you're doing it. But that's not going to make a Gen Zer come to you and be like, oh my God, they support No Kid Hungry. That is why I'm only eating here. No, that's table stakes. You should be giving back. As a human, you should do something to give back. You make a profit, you should give to some that don't have money. That is a very simple way. You have food waste. You should give that food to somebody that can use it and not just throw it away. So those are table stakes. But what does that mean to be a mission forward, to have a reason to believe bigger than that, right? Because that trend isn't going away. Because Gen X, Gen Z, you know, they're all, as the younger ones come in, they're all looking at, do you have something that you stand up for that is bigger than you and bigger than, you know, selling more, you know, whatever you're selling, you know, entertainment to kids, whatever it is that you're selling, movie tickets. Is that something that you are offering? And if you are, and you're being clear about that, then that is something that truly appeals to people's hearts. I said elderly care earlier. You know, you look at somebody like Brightstar, right, that stands up for more than just we provide elderly care. They stand up for, and obviously, you know, stand up for so much more than that, right? This is a period in your life where you really need somebody that cares about you, that is somebody that gives you the opportunity to look at this brand, not just with the eyes of they provide a service, but they provide a service that is needed at a time in need for a parent in need. Because all of us in this room here, we have parents that are getting to the age where they need the help. They need somebody to help them go to the grocery store. They need somebody help taking their pills, right? So what do you stand for? That is the mission. How do you bring that to life? Yes, through giving, but yes, through the mission itself, through hiring the right people, through bringing the right people to the table that are going to give your parents the right care, to really standing up for that, to really, bringing franchisees in that want to give and help, and that believe that, care and concern and kindness towards the elderly is so needed. So how do you make that mission come to life? That is a trend. And it's a trend because the new generations, that's what they're looking for. And when they're going to buy elderly care in another, when my daughter's going to buy me elderly care in another 30 years, she's going to look for that. And that's not going to go away. The trend of jumping on opportunistic moments in time, right? Whether you call that newsjacking in the PR world, or you call that, somebody does really something funny at the Oscars and then all brands do it, or, a cool trend for Halloween, right? Like you remember last year when all the brands were doing like the really funny Spirit of Halloween costumes, and I put costumes in air quotes, right? Because it was all over Instagram. That was really funny. So
Yeah.
those are trends that people jump on. It's a normal jump on a bandwagon kind of expression. But those are very short, very seasonal often, right? There's something that happens Valentine's Day and you jump on it. There's something that happens for Halloween and you jump on it. There's something that happens for holiday and you jump on it. So that's a trend. And a lot of brands find ways to jump on those trends. I think from a communications and media perspective, I would call this a trend, even though it's not a consumer trend, but it's going back to in-person and experiential and activations, and bringing that very much to life. Your fans, I'm going to call them fans, of your brand, love seeing you. They love seeing the people behind you. They love seeing what you do. They love seeing why you exist. They love seeing how you give back to their community. And they want to do that with you. You do something like a local store, like, Gathering Fridays, let's say, or every other month you do some last Friday of the month, and you give customers something special in your store, or you do an open house. Those are the moments in time where the fans come in, and it doesn't matter that it's 50 or 100 or 1,000. Those fans feel very engaged when they come in and they have that moment with you and they communicate with you and your franchisee and they talk to you. And that's a trend that we're seeing that's, again, not going away very soon, is that ability of franchisors to really communicate with their franchisees, that in person and live with their customers is a very big deal. Yes, we love to communicate through these guys here in app. That's awesome. We all love to do that, getting the prompts. But what are you doing at a regional level to like bring those fans to life?
That's great. So we've got one more question before we wrap it up. So advice for new franchisors. So franchisors who are just starting out, what are the kind of top PR mistakes you've seen in your experience, and how can they avoid them as they grow?
Yeah, don't hire an agency. That's the biggest mistake you see. It is not, look, it is not a way to be resourceful and in the early days, right? I mean, when I started my firm, I didn't hire an SEO agency. I knew I needed SEO, but I wasn't going to hire an SEO agency because I couldn't afford it. And even if I would have ponied up the cash, it takes so much time for that to really come to life, and for me to show up in Google rankings, that I would have been so disappointed with these poor people. I would have been like, oh, you're not doing anything for this money. Why do you exist here? You're a waste of my money. And that's really the truth. They are, because so early in the game, it takes so long for someone to do this job that you're going to not see the values and you're not going to reap the benefits. Also, when you are a small business, right, when you have 1 location, 2 locations, 5 locations, it is so early on in the stage that you're not going to feel the difference. Even if you do have an amazing story in, the biggest publication, New York Times, you have full on-page story, you're not going to feel that you have 5 locations. What are you going to get? 5 extra customers? Congratulations. You're not going to know. Nobody's going to know. Like, it's a waste of your money. Don't hire an agency. Don't spend your time and money there. PR is something that you don't do at the early stage. The early stage is more about communicating correctly. And you can work with a communication specialist or your marketing team that can help you communicate correctly with your franchisees outwardly to their consumers. But you don't need media for that. You don't need press for that. You don't need the megaphone, right? Press is your megaphone. Internal communications become outward communications when you put a megaphone to it. That's exactly what press does. So how do you communicate correctly with your franchisees, and how do you communicate with your customers? That is important at this early stage. A big mistake is hiring somebody to do it for you outwardly with the media, because you're not going to need that until 25 plus locations, honestly.
I was just to ask, what's your recommendation?
25 plus locations. It was when you start thinking, okay, well, I have 25 locations. I kind of need to start doing something. And that's when you, depending on how spread out you are, right? To Michael's point earlier, how spread out are you? Because if you're in 25 different states, that's going to be a problem. And you probably shouldn't hire an agency then either, because it's going to be a hot mess and you're going to waste your money. But now if you have, let's say 4 states all on the East Coast and you have 25 locations, then you can start doing some damage, right? Another mistake, I think, is not thinking holistically, which is what I said earlier, right? And thinking that, well, all I need to do is win here and I'm going to be fine. And it's like, well, no, because what if your consumer isn't looking there? What if your potential franchisee is not looking there? So you have to have multiple touch points with your consumers and your potential franchisees, so you're able to actually disseminate that information across multiple mediums. And you got to be able to do that. So if you're not doing that, if you're just focused on one thing and one thing only, don't be like, well, all I'm going to do is I'm going to attend IFA. That's all I'm going to do. And I'm going to find franchisees there. I don't know that it's a good idea. Maybe you do 5 different things and 2 other little conferences. And that's how you start seeing the people that are going to eventually become your franchisees.
Amazing. This is great. Well, we could go on forever here. This is, I love this. This has been one of the most informative podcasts so far, right, Leanne?
Yeah, I like getting you riled up too.
I love it. I'll talk for hours. It's a problem, you guys. It's a problem.
Yeah.
We
No,
didn't even ask
listen,
a lot of the questions, but we gotta go.
The information has been so good that I feel like we should charge people to listen to this.
Right.
No, they
But
should.
listen, but Amanda, the president of Konnect Agency, just spoke in Toronto. They're also going to do a crisis communications session at our mastermind in Asheville, and Amanda and Beth are speaking at Let's Grow Dallas on, hold on, brand building strategies for franchise growth from identity to impact. So if you want more from Konnect Agency,
there you go.
We've got you. We've got you.
Love it.
Thank you.
Love it. Well, how come Sabina's not part of the talk?
I know. They kicked me to the curb. They were like, we're becoming CFEs. So we're doing this. This is our lane now. We're going to be CFEs. And unless you have the time to go be a CFE and speak at all these conferences and handle the business, then get out of here and buzz off. And I'm like, wow, that is not very nice, is it? Like, yeah. They were like, also, you don't care about anything that we care about, which is we love to talk to people. And I was like, okay, wow, rude. See, this is what happens. This is why I didn't want to start a business. You hire people and this is what happens. Throw you to the curb.
Well, I will say Amanda's very good at karaoke, by the way.
Yes, I heard. Yet another thing that I'm apparently not invited to, because with my voice, imagine that. Sound like a screeching, dying cat.
Oh my gosh, you were going to beat me to the punch. I was going to say, Amanda, if you're listening, we love you too.
Oh my gosh.
Maybe we got to arrange karaoke in Dallas. That was so much fun.
Yeah, I don't know. Was she a screaming, dying cat? Because if she was, then maybe you shouldn't invite her again. You should be like,
what happens in karaoke stays in karaoke. We cannot share that.
Okay, fine.
Oh my gosh. Okay, Sabina, thank you so much. If someone wants to find you, how do they find you? LinkedIn or
at Sabina Gault on Instagram, public profile. I'm at Sabina Gault on LinkedIn. And Konnect Agency, you can find me there. Always happy to chat. Happy to offer advice, support. We're here, you know, a rising tide lifts all ships. So if the industry is doing well, and our franchisors are doing well, then we're going to do well, as being part of that ecosystem. So I'm always happy to talk to people and help people and guide people and give advice on anything they need.
Love it. And you said connectagency.com?
Yep.
There you go. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, you
Thanks,
guys. You're
Sabina.
amazing. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Oh my gosh, that was amazing. Thank you again, Sabina. What a phenomenal interview. One of my favorites so far. And I don't always say that, but that was definitely a great one. So many things that who even knew, you know, that PR can do so much, you know. Leanne, you're on mute there, but just so you know. Oh, you're unmuted. That was great. What'd you think, Leanne?
I love Sabina. She's super smart. She had some great information that she shared, and I only went on mute because my dogs went pitter pitter pitter. They were pitter pattering in the background. So I exclude everyone from the dog noise because I'm dog sitting, so I have a third dog, which is making me insane.
Dog sitting, nice. Third dog, good times. All right, well, if you like what you heard, again, folks, please leave us a 5-star review. It helps us grow, and subscribe to us on Spotify and on YouTube. We'll see you in a couple weeks with more unfiltered news and education from both sides of the border. In the meantime, here's what is on the calendar in our final segment, Franchise Mingle. Franchise Mingle is brought to you by the National Franchise Show, and you will understand why when I tell you all that's going on coming up in 2025. Of course, we have Let's Grow Dallas, the big one. If you haven't registered, register right away. February 2nd through to the 4th. It is phenomenal. So much fun. We've just secured our opening big bash. I don't know if anyone's ever done this at a franchise event with several hundred people, but it's going to be a fun karaoke night. But lots of education too. Anyways, registration is open. We only have a few spots left, so register for your Let's Grow if you haven't done so. IFA will be right after Let's Grow from February 10th to the 13th in Las Vegas. We'll have a booth there. If you're coming, come say hi. If you're only able to book one event, make sure it's Let's Grow. And yeah, so for the franchise show, we have a lot of events coming up. We've got New York, New Jersey in January. We've got Dallas back-to-back with the Let's Grow conference, so you can kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We've got Nashville in February, Chicago, Virginia, DC, and Vegas all coming up through to May. And then, of course, we've got our mastermind retreat, Leanne. What's the date of the mastermind retreat?
April 30th to May 2nd.
April 30th to May 2nd. I know lots of people are working on budgeting right now. So if you don't know about our peer advisory groups, please reach out or go to hello-mastermind.com. This episode is brought to you by Architect, Franchise Assembly, Hello Mastermind, and the National Franchise Show. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll be back in a couple of weeks.
Wait, can I ask you a question?
Oh.
Can we stop saying kill 2 birds with 1 stone?
Why?
Yes,
Is that like a DEI thing?
I just hate that.
I know. There's nothing wrong with DEI. What are you trying to say, Leanne? You know?
Listen, I just kill 2 birds with 1 stone just doesn't sound positive.
It does to me, especially if you're hungry.
Right.
I'm gonna be as unfiltered as I want. You don't want to kill 2 birds with 1 stone, then you be you. I'm just kidding. Fine. If it makes you happy, Leanne, I won't kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We'll try and kill 3 birds with 1 stone.
Oh my God.
All
Good
right, folks. See you
everyone.
in 2 weeks.